Though the Orokin Empire claimed themselves masters of all on their domain, much of their technological advancement was due to the legions of elite scholars and academics in service to their goals. There are the famous Archimedeans of high renown such as Suda, Margulis, Halako, or, as we learned recently, Archimedean Otak, who was crucial in understanding the unique properties of argon crystals formed within the void, which explains why his fractured cephalon remains have such a keen interest in minerals now. But there are also those lower scholars of little consequence in the grand scheme, dedicated to tasks that, while important, carried no sweeping ramifications with their pursuits. One such scholar was Drusus Thelonius Leverrian. Though it isn't said if Drusus was counted among the highest rank of Archimedeans, he at least was in direct contact with several, being close friends with Lloyd even during his tenure in Albrecht's labs. Drusus was primarily a man concerned with history and archiving the past, a task which likely held some regard in the Old Empire as the immortal minds of the Orokin overflowed and their memories were hoarded within Ayatan treasures, lest they fade into the gray mists of time. It is likely through this work of enshrining the past for the Orokin that Drusus would meet another individual concerned with archival, the Warframe, Dante. Most Warframes were kept mute by the Orokin, forced to live in silent servitude, or, should the Orokin desire, only express themselves through howls or screams, unable to communicate beyond the base animalistic methods befitting how the Orokin regarded them. But Dante was different. He was able to communicate through writing, and his eloquent voice, silent as it may have been, made a strong impact on Drusus. At Dante's urging, Drusus would found the Leverrian, a detailed historical archive formed within the weave that any and all could visit to learn more about the history of the Empire. Though it's not clear if Dante was originally designated by the Orokin as a direct aid for Drusus, or if they merely met by happenstance, they soon became steadfast allies. What began as a mere partnership grew into a deep, mutual respect. A respect so strong that, even now, Drusus has difficulty conflating the actions of the Warframes and the Tenno who operated them, choosing to respect the Frames as individuals with their own personas, who carried out their grand feats of their own free will. As an aside, Lloyd's offhand comment does cast some doubt onto whether or not all the feats of the Warframes were when controlled by the Tenno, or if the Tenno may have merely quelled the Frames' rage, and then some Frames were capable of acting on their own without Tenno guidance. However, this would be quite a departure from what has been established thus far and how unique the Umbra strain was, so for now I believe this was just indicating Drusus's intense respect for the Frames, and his likely lack of knowledge regarding how they operated in the Empire under Tenno control. Through Drusus, Dante would eventually meet with Lloyd and, similarly to Drusus, impress the man with his ardent pursuit of knowledge. Dante's works on ancient archaeology would become regarded amongst the best in the Empire, a grand feat for any human, but unheard of for a beast like a Warframe. The three would work closely in their scholarly endeavors, and Lloyd would even allow Dante to explore the ossuaries of the Entrati, as Dante shared the family's obsession with bones, but it was not enough for Dante. In the brief glimpses of Albrecht's works that Dante saw, the deeper, more arcane knowledge that lingered there drew Dante like a moth to a flame. Drusus, more familiar with the dark sciences of Albrecht as he had learned them through Lloyd, did everything he could to dissuade Dante from pursuing his inquiries further, but the hunger within Dante only grew. When Albrecht sealed himself away in 1999, and Lloyd went into stasis, his final message to Drusus, "We end as we began," was a dark warning, and once more Drusus in turn warned Dante to temper his curiosity, but the possibility of exploring Albrecht's laboratories freely was too much, and Dante could no longer resist. When the Tenno executed the slaughter at the Terminus and the further rebellions, Dante saw it as a perfect opportunity to leave. Though he did not seem to share the goals of his Tenno brethren in felling the Empire, he knew that his proximity to Drusus would endanger him, and thus saw no further reason to restrain himself, and ventured into the labs. There, as the murmur had already begun to creep in, Dante was assaulted by the indifference, the void tongue infecting his mind and promising eldritch knowledge, the one thing he could not resist. Trapped within the halls in a struggle with the indifference, Dante remained for ages, wrestling with the dark knowledge that sought to make itself known. Even as his physical form was torn asunder, his mind remained within the impossible space on the border of dust and void in Albrecht's labs, held thrall by the indifference until he succumbed to its whims. Drusus, meanwhile, went into a deep depression. With his closest friend branded fugitive and vanished into the deep, he alone maintained the Laverian as the system fell into chaos. Many Archimedeans, fearing the withering of their minds by the ages, willingly became cephalons to resist the decay, but it is hinted that Drusus, loyal to his friend until the very end, was glassed as punishment by the Orokin for refusing to divulge any information about Dante when the last Orokin came to eradicate any vestigial Warframes. Regardless, Drusus was cursed with immortality, living within the halls of memory he had created as the system without became more and more indifferent to the past. Alone, vulnerable to the self-destructive thoughts that find us at our lowest points, Drusus was prime prey for the once-vanished Corpus founder returned to life, Parvos Granum. Seeking ancient reliquary of all kinds, even digital, Parvos offered to buy the Laverian and its contents, and Drusus, on the brink of nothingness, agreed. However, as soon as the deal was struck, Drusus immediately regretted his decision. To sell the culmination of his life's work and monument to the ideals he and his closest friend worked to maintain was too much, and Drusus begged Parvos to reverse the deal. Parvos predictably refused, but being a shrewd businessman, saw an opportunity. He would postpone the seizure of the Laverian and even return it to Drusus, but only if Drusus could supply Parvos with payment in full plus interest, and the preferred method of payment, Entrati artifacts. Drusus beseeched the Tenno and his old friend Lloyd to assist, and in searching through the archives for Entrati relics, soon discovered the scattered remnants of Dante, still echoing with his lingering consciousness. Dante told Drusus of what had occurred, how he had fought for centuries to remain himself, and what he had found within Albrecht's labs, the book. Whether he means Albrecht's grimoire, or what would become his own tome, Noctua, is uncertain, but the knowledge within immediately stirred memories in Drusus. He had heard the same words within the tome before, from Parvos Granum. Clarity came to both Dante and Drusus. They realized at once what it was Parvos was truly searching for within the archives. In Parvos's tales, he often speaks of hearing voices from beyond, conversing with forms that did not exist. Once thought to be poetic retellings of his motivation or imagination, they are now cast in a different light. Perhaps the time Parvos spent in the void through Protea's time dilation brought him even closer to the indifference, and its whispers urged him to open the door from the other side. Parvos had sought out Entrati knowledge before, seeking to disrupt their monopoly on knowledge related to the void, but he had been rebuked by Lloyd. Now, however, he had been given a direct method to take whatever he desired. Understanding that Parvos must never learn of what he had been cursed to know, Dante made his choice. He let himself die, to vanish so that Parvos may never pluck the lingering knowledge from his scattered bones. But the book, the void, did not allow Dante to die. It drew him into deeper depths, beyond life and death, beyond reason, through the black between stars and time. In the final connection they shared, Drusus saw the briefest glimpse of the empty beyond, shattering his belief in the foundations that maintained the world of dust. Drusus was given closure, but cursed, as his dearest friend was, with knowledge. Knowledge that, like a parasite, feeds on its host, teaching, spreading, and growing. For the void, that which does not exist, does not necessarily need a physical host. For the void, thoughts are as real as the ground beneath our feet, the very act of remembrance enough to give it life, to continue its survival. And now Drusus carries that seed within himself as well, forever cursed to give existence, however faint, to that which was not ever meant to exist. But until the time comes when the seeds of knowledge sprout forth into the strangling roots of the void, this is what we know.